Buenas tardes, Christoph Ludwig here at the end of Automotive Logistics Mexico 2020. It's always a bit of a sad sight if you turn around and all of a sudden it all got to break down. Everyone's kind of going home, making their way back, and the branding comes down. But it's also a bit of a relief for us after 3 pretty intense days. I wanted to share a couple of the key takeaways for me and for anyone who missed the conference or who has been following it online. We've already talked quite a bit about the USMCA TMEC agreement, which is hopefully going to be ratified in the coming weeks and then implemented over the coming months. I don't want to dwell too much more on that, but I think some of the other things that came out from other speakers after Mr. Siade spoke was perhaps highlighting that some of those localization rules really will be challenging. If you look at the steel requirements, for example, the percentage of North American steel has come down quite a lot over the last 15-20 years, and so the requirements to get it back up to the levels that are in the agreement may be much more difficult than anticipated. Perhaps hopefully the room for flexibility on here. Other details around the labor requirements, and certainly at the end of the day around the paperwork and certification process, does still leave some questions. As I've pointed out before, I really think that is an opportunity for logistics providers. Sounds like something just got broken there. It was an opportunity for logistics providers to improve to work on that complexity, to offer their customers value in that sense. So as one of the service providers said on stage, they kind of like pain. They kind of like the pain and complexity that their customers face as opportunities for them. USMCA looks likely like it's going to provide some of that. I thought another interesting aspect was the BMW launch. We've also heard directly from Carl Friedrich Koch about that. It partly remarkable for how smoothly it's gone. No real problems, partly down to actually pretty excellent planning along the way. Shows that in Mexico you can execute smoothly if you plan properly and build your network accordingly. A lot of exciting stuff happening with BMW as it really ramps up production and exports now. The use of connected supply chain technology, whether that's tracking parts and updating every 15 minutes into the SAP system to know and understand the inventory and what that requires, right through to using connected vehicle technology. All great to see coming into place in a market here like Mexico. Key topics that came up for things like technology and joining up the supply chain were really around trust, transparency, and standards. So in many cases, technology there's still struggles to implement it because of a diversity of standards in different operations and around the world. That's something we see companies like Volkswagen making a really concerted effort now to address by standardizing, in this example with Amazon Web Services, a cloud-based system, which will create more of a global standard for its production and logistics systems. We've seen other examples of that. But fundamentally, many seem to agree that regardless of how good the technology or regardless of even the standards, if there's no transparency across partners, if there's no transparency or a lack of transparency within an organization, it's going to be trouble. So the coronavirus is another opportunity to look inside an organization, to understand the supply chain at levels that we didn't understand it before. So where's that tier 3 casing for an electric part coming? Maybe the screen to a navigation system, for example. Where's that actually coming from? Well, it's almost definitely coming from China. And if a company didn't know before what its tier 4 or tier 5 was doing, it may well soon be about to find out as this situation continues. So that transparency was really key, and many companies, we had the likes of Bosch and Toyota talked about strong commitments to improve that internally and improve that with their partners. So that was key. I think the last point we want to talk about is really the talent management and the talent recruitment side. We had a lot of interaction today with students who came to learn about this career. We had some presentations from Nissan, from a quite young team who implemented a really tremendous packaging solution, and they took a lot of responsibility there. So a lot of talk around how you manage talent, how you manage different types of personalities, maybe the difference in generations with millennials and Generation Y. It might seem like broad topics for something like logistics. Actually, it's very relevant in logistics as well, in these mission critical sort of industries where people need to work closely together. And places like Mexico, which actually have very high turnover rates. That was confirmed by pretty much everyone today, including Scania, amongst others, that they have serious problems with retention, and so have to work carefully to build the teams, create the right working culture, atmosphere, incentives to keep their employees. And we talked a lot about that, and I think it's going to be more key because the supply chain is not becoming less complex. We know it's growing more complex, and the issues that Mexico is facing are very multifaceted, and so the talent management is key. That goes alongside a lot of other operational things. Investments in Veracruz are seen as very positive. Investments needed in the railways as ever. More highways. The state of Mexico talked about investing more in its connections. Those are positives. Those are key issues. We want to see more of that. We did hear some positive things, but in a way, people were a bit more focused on looking out to their teams and human resource management and aspects of leadership. So that's kind of a wrap here. I think if I keep talking, they're going to probably force us out. So as the stage gets broken down, this is me signing off, Christopher Ludwig. Thanks as well to Daniel Harrison, automotive analyst, who's helped us a lot with our coverage here over the last couple of days. We've got a lot more to come that you'll be seeing online in the weeks and months ahead. Hasta luego.